Greetings of the day. I'm Elizabeth Sarah George. I've recently joined Kristu Jayanti as an assistant professor in the Department of Psychology. I've completed my BA Honours in Psychology from Ambedkar University, Delhi. I've done my MSc in Clinical Psychology from Christ University, Bangalore. I've also done my MPhil in Psychology from Christ University, Bangalore. Currently, I'm in the final stage of my PhD program from Christ University, Bangalore. Today, I will be talking to you about neuropsychological rehabilitation. So, neuropsychological rehabilitation is a very essential part of psychotherapy, and this is used mostly in the case of traumatic brain injury and neurodegenerative disorders. It's a very powerful way of rehabilitation and recovery where the power of the brain in rehabilitation becomes crucial. So, neuropsychological rehabilitation program is concerned with the improvement of cognitive, emotional, psychosocial, and behavioral deficits caused by the insults to the brain. NR is a very crucial aspect of intervention for brain related dysfunction. The course of intervention not only depends on the diagnosis but on the patient's age, the premorbid function, and the educational background and the therapist's innovative skills to develop the tasks to address these functions. While starting therapy, being mindful of the emotional, social, and behavioral consequences due to the patient's dysfunctions and the effects in the lives of those close to the patients are as important. The neuropsychological rehabilitation is mainly used in traumatic brain injury, tumor, cerebrovascular accidents, anoxia, brain related infectious conditions, neurodegenerative conditions, and in psychiatric disorders. In the field of research, traumatic brain injury has been the most extensively researched with regard to the neuropsychological rehabilitation. So, neuropsychological rehabilitation is primarily involved with preparing cognitive dysfunctions, but the neuropsychologist also has the responsibility to address the emotional disturbances, gap in the social functioning subsequent to the brain dysfunction. The most important aspect before a neuropsychological rehabilitation program is a neuropsychological assessment in order to understand which are the main areas where the patient has undergone significant impairments and deficits. It's important to conduct a neuropsychological assessment. So it begins mostly with a 10-minute screening tools, and then it progresses to exhaustive batteries to identify the in-depth deficits that's happened to the brain. Both quantitative and qualitative measures are a part of the assessment. Significant aspects of neuropsychological assessment is mainly in the attention, working memory, other cognitive deficits, the speech and language deficits, as well as the behavioral and social and emotional difficulty the patient goes through while interacting with the environment. So, the neuropsychological tests in the area of neuropsychological rehabilitation are scientific and are standardized on the normal population. So, as I discussed earlier, tests are designed to assess the sensory input, attention, concentration, learning, memory, language functions, spatial and manipulatory ability, executive functions, and motor output. It gives an idea about the nature and extent of cognitive dysfunction. Unless and until we get a clarity about the nature of the dysfunction the patient has undergone, it will not be possible to plan a tailor-made rehabilitation program for the client. So, the main aim of a cognitive rehabilitation is to address the cognitive dysfunction. The NR aims to address the psychological, emotional, and social implications of brain pathology. Several cognitive deficits have been associated with traumatic brain injury. So, deficits in attention, in performing dual tasks, even with mild TBI, working memory deficits are the common problems which occur due to a traumatic brain injury. Also, various studies report that significant differences in the frontal lobe executive functions in individuals with TBI have been reported in comparison with control subjects. So, difficulties in memory have also been reported. So, other aspects of neuropsychological assessment include the assessment of stress, depression, anxiety, the behavioral analysis, social functioning, and the quality of life. Theories of neuropsychological intervention. So, in order to for the rehabilitation program to work, the basis for the neuropsychological rehabilitation program are some theories associated with our brain. So, it is believed with extensive research and due to various case studies that have already been carried out that the brain has its own magic, which includes the neuronal plasticity and the theories of restitution, substitution, and compensation. These are the underlying principles of the brain which makes it possible for us to rehabilitate a client who comes with severe injury or a degenerative condition to the brain. So, the first theory here is the role of neuronal plasticity. The environment can alter the organization of the normal and injured brain through the mechanism of brain plasticity. So, neuronal plasticity refers to the adaptation of the brain as a result of several factors that may independently or through interaction produce changes in the brain. The neuronal plasticity may occur as part of normal developmental function, or it may be the response or the result of a response to destroyed brain function due to brain injury. The environment plays an important role in brain plasticity. Enriched environments have been demonstrated to be associated with greater levels of neuronal plasticity, which makes it possible for a person going through a or recovering from a traumatic brain injury or other neurodegenerative disorders to get rehabilitated properly. And this ability of the brain to adapt itself is what makes rehabilitation possible. So, another important theory, as I already mentioned, is the role of restitution, substitution, and compensation. These are three important processes, the brain functions, which are very important or crucial for the rehabilitation. The first is restitution, which describes the brain's natural ability to restore the lost or impaired function. Second is substitution training, which involves the replacement of impaired functions by alternate strategies that prove to be functional. Because the brain has the ability to relearn even after a major damage, and because the alternate parts of the brain compensates for the dysfunction in a particular part, the cognitive retraining process, which is used in neuropsychological rehabilitation, has been proven to be very effective in the substitution training process, where through alternate strategies the brain which has gone through an injury learns to or relearns how to be functional and how to carry out the particular task which has been impaired due to the injury. And this also simultaneously in the brain involves the reorganization of cortical networks associated with the task. The third, which is described as compensation, where cognitive aids are provided which can support the patient in everyday functioning, such as checklists, flowcharts, audio voice guidance applications, and computer-based clinical decision display systems. These systems are very much effective in helping the brain to relearn and re-register all these processes in our brain. Although there are certain principles of rehabilitation, the manner of rehabilitation depends on various factors as well. The patient's age, um, not only on the diagnosis, but the patient's age, the pre-morbid function, and the educational background and the therapist's innovative skills are all required in order to address these functions efficiently. So, while starting therapy, being mindful of the emotional, social, and behavioral consequences due to the patient's dysfunction and the effects in the lives of those close to the patients as well becomes extremely important, as these have a crucial role in the way a patient recovers in the rehabilitation process. Thank you so much. I will be back with another video regarding the same topic very soon.